While waiting on our meal, an older gent walks in and orders a drink from our bartender. I recognized him immediately, and I slapped my girlfriend on the leg under the bar, trying to motion without making a scene as to who he was. He was too close for me to say it out loud without him noticing. It was none other than Frank Stallone. I finally say to him, "Why are you making all that ruckus over there?" And his response was beyond complimentary in his flirtation. I thought it was funny. The other person that I was introduced to was Anita Cochran. She looked at me like I was the devil and said, "What did you bring her here for?" I was in shock. Why would she say that? I had never met her. I had never run into her before. Did she think she knew me? I know the expression on my face was, "What is happening?" It's a good thing I wasn't a fan. Oh, wait, I was, but not after that. And that's not the end of this story.
The Proxy Principle.
Have you ever met or spoken to a celebrity and didn't realize they were famous? It's easy to run into celebrities in my neck of the woods, and although they may look familiar, you may not always be able to pinpoint where you know them from. Well, I came across an Instagram profile where this chick was reading comments from people who told their experiences of running into celebrities, only in the moment, they didn't know that they had run into celebrities. They just thought that they were striking up conversation with everyday people. Or if they did recognize them, well, let me just tell you some of the stories. Kat's mother-in-law asked George Strait what he does for a living. And he responded with, "Well, I make country music. I've even won a few awards." She patted him on the shoulder and said, "Good for you." Dalso was at a convention. He had ordered a pizza and went down to the lobby to pick it up. When he got on the elevator to go back upstairs, a lady rode back up with him and the pizza. He didn't recognize her at first. She looked at Dalso and the pizza and said, "I'm going to beat you up and steal your pizza." They both laughed. As she was exiting, it dawned on Dalso that was Linda Hamilton. He saw her the next day and offered her the leftovers. She remembered, and they both had a good laugh. Carl said Usher was in an elevator with him and a friend. Carl and his friend were talking when she mouthed, "Do you know who that is?" Carl said, "Yeah, I figure I contributed to his fame. He should be glad to see me, not the other way around." Good point. Nani said her father had no shame. He was not in the least bit celebrity shy. Nani's family lived in an area where you might run into a famous person shopping at your local supermarket. Her father once walked up to Heather Locklear in the middle of Gelson's and said, "Do I know you? You look so familiar." She laughed. "I mean, maybe we dated or something." She kept laughing. "You sure? What's your name? Hannah? Helen? It'll come to me." Sounds like Nani's dad's a big flirt. One lady named Melly saw David Beckham with his kids at the mall. Obviously, this is when they were younger, and Melly said word for word, "You ever been told you look like a knockoff of David Beckham?" And he laughed and went, "No, never." And Melly was like, "Well, you do. You're so similar." And the moment she realized it was David Beckham was when he and his kids loaded into their Bentley, which was parked right next to her. Wendy Earthling said Matthew McConaughey came into an antique store that she was in. Someone walked up and asked him, "Are you Matthew McConaughey?" As Wendy passed him, she said, "I bet you get that all the time." Legion said he talked to Phillip Rivers, the Chargers quarterback, in an airport for 30 minutes. When Phillip told Legion that he played for San Diego, Legion said, "Sorry, I don't watch baseball." Karen's husband worked at a paintball arena. He was checking paperwork to make sure everyone filled out their waivers. One of them had Harrison Ford's name on it. So Karen's husband asked, "Who's the comedian who wrote Ford's name down?" Harrison Ford walked up to the window and said, "I did." One day, after Sterling was shopping, he saw a Jeep he really liked. As he pressed his nose up against the very darkly tinted driver's window to see what the dash looked like, the window rolled down, and Sterling was standing there almost nose to nose with Robin Williams. In shock, Sterling stuttered, I really like your car." And Robin invited him to sit in the passenger seat. Robin spent 5 minutes or so happily showing off all of the features to him. That's a nice story. I like that one. All right, so there's this comedian, Chris DiStefano, I think, and he's telling the story about he and his dad being at Joe's Pizza, and Steven Tyler walks in. And everybody knows that it's the Steven Tyler from Aerosmith, right? And Chris's dad's like, "Everyone's going crazy over this guy." And Chris says, "Yeah, it's Steven Tyler." And his dad says, "I know who it is. What, am I a fucking asshole?" Excuse the language, folks. But this is how Chris told the story. And he says, "Yeah, kinda, you are." Steven gets his pizza. He's with his manager or whatever, and he starts taking a napkin and blotting the oil off of his pizza. And Chris's dad goes, "This fucking guy, no way he's from New York if he's taking a napkin blotting the oil off his pizza." Chris is like, "Dad, it doesn't matter." His dad says, "I gotta say something to this guy." Chris begged him not to say anything. But his dad couldn't help himself, so he gets up, walks past Steven Tyler, and he goes, "Hey, Bon Jovi, you don't need the napkin blot the oil off your pizza." And Chris turns around to see that Steven had the slice ready to go in his mouth open, and asks his manager, "Did that guy just call me Bon Jovi?" Chris says, "Dad, he's from Aerosmith." His dad says, "Same thing." Now, I don't know if these stories were on the up and up, but here are a few that I know absolutely did happen. And I know they did because they happened between a hostess and the patrons of that famous Italian restaurant where I've worked, Michelli's. Our hostess seated an actor with beautiful blue eyes. She asked him if he was Bradley Cooper. He said, "Yes, yes, I am." And our hostess went on and on to him about how she loved his movies. Come to find out, it was actually Josh Lucas. Good one, Josh. Another blue-eyed movie star came in and wanted to be seated in a more private section of the restaurant. On that evening, it happened to be in my section. And he happened to be one of my teen idols, Rob Lowe. His eyes are beautiful, by the way. Anyway, our hostess couldn't place how she knew him. I reminded her, and after he left, she proceeded to come back and tell the servers that she had a conversation with him on his way out. I was like, "Oh yeah? What'd you guys talk about?" And she said she told him, "You know, you look much shorter in person." I asked her how he responded to that, and she said he just laughed and said, "Yeah, television makes us look 10 inches taller." Before I was a full-time stand-in, I was a regular background artist on The Young and the Restless. Some of the cast and crew entered the same guard gate at CBS as the line of the contestants for The Price is Right. Well, one day I had a later call time. I was walking in and I had sunglasses on, and I must have been camera ready because the whole crowd started cheering me on and taking pictures of me like I was a celebrity. They thought I was somebody. I have no idea who, but it was very intimidating because I had never experienced that before. And it must be a really strange thing to deal with when people know you, but you don't know them. You can just be living your life, and out of nowhere, someone starts talking to you like they've known you for years, or you're swarmed by a crowd. I mean, you get used to it, I guess. You learn how to be humble, or maybe you don't. I'm sure it can be annoying at times because you can't go anywhere without people wanting to talk to you. I did make a few friends out of such scenarios. One happened in an acting class I was taking. My first acting class in LA was with Howard Fine, a very well-respected acting teacher who had coached many very successful performers in the entertainment industry. And in LA, you're bound to be put in a class with people who already have established careers, so that in itself can be intimidating. My class happened to include Sonoy Lake from the 2002 surfer movie Blue Crush, Jerry Halliwell, otherwise known as Ginger Spice of the Spice Girls, and a few reality television stars. Well, the classes were usually 6-week courses. We'd meet twice a week, and the class would run for about 3 hours. In the 3-hour span, we'd take a break or two. And after a few weeks of working scenes with these people, you naturally start striking up conversations. I want to say we were about 3 weeks in, and there was a girl in my class that looked so familiar to me. I could not for the life of me place where I knew her from. So that one day, during our break, she was sitting next to me and I said, "Hey, do I know you from somewhere?"
The Proxy Principle.
Okay. So I get a call from one of my friends, and she's trying to get me to purchase this new product she's selling. We all know the feeling, right? And this product might be along the lines of what some would call skincare. I personally have very sensitive skin. I've got my regimen down, so it's usually an automatic no to anyone who asks, simply because sometimes the products work, but usually only for a couple of weeks or maybe even months. But then I start getting breakouts, and I end up going back to my old products. But I'm not going to lie. This friend that called me gave me some of this product, and it is fabulous. The product is Rimmon, and I noticed a difference right away. Have you ever heard of tiger grass? Well, legend has it that wounded tigers would roll in this plant to heal their skin, earning its nickname, tiger grass. Does Rimmon have its own strain and technology of tiger grass? Hard to say, but after putting Rimmon on my skin, I rapidly saw and felt a difference in just 5 to 7 days. And let's not forget to mention the packaging is gorgeous, and it comes in real generous size bottles. I'm telling you, when you try it, you're going to feel a difference right away, and you're going to see the difference not too long after. My favorite part of this product is that it is clean, and it abides by the European Union standards. There's over 3,000 toxic chemicals that this company bans from their products. So you can feel really good about what you're putting on your skin. I know some of you live in these bigger cities like Los Angeles. You have access to some of the best skincare in the world just by popping into a mall or heading into Beverly Hills. So I get it. But I'm telling you, this product is affordable luxury. And best of all, it has clean ingredients. The active cleanup powder alone makes my skin feel and look so clean. And the oil mist, the calming balance gel, the boosters, the serums, and the active cream make me feel pampered every time I use them. I personally have elevated my cleansing routine to a skincare ritual by using Rimmon, and you can too. So visit candirans.rimmon.com. That's candirans.riman.com. Check out candirans.rimmon.com to find your own Rimmon ritual, whether it's skincare, personal care, wellness, or all of it. I promise your skin will thank you for it. In the world of British automobiles, craftsmanship is everything. Performance, heritage, elegance. Each detail is designed to be savored. And for over 40 years, drivers throughout Chatsworth, Northridge, Porter Ranch, Agora Hills, Calabasas, Simi Valley, and Thousand Oaks have trusted one name to preserve that experience. Yorks and Lanks Automotive, a family-owned and operated business grounded in integrity, expertise, and an unwavering commitment to quality. Their ASE certified master technicians bring together 80 years of combined experience, ensuring that every Jaguar, every Land Rover, your Aston Martin, Bentley, or Mini that enters their care receives precise, thoughtful, and uncompromising attention. With advanced diagnostic technology, continuous professional training, and a deep respect for the engineering behind every British vehicle, they deliver service that aligns with the standards these cars were built to embody. And because your time is as valuable as your vehicle, they offer rental cars and shuttle service within 10 miles, making the process seamless from start to finish. Yorks and Lanks Automotive are open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., and are located in Chatsworth, California. Make your appointment today by visiting yorksandlanks.com or by calling Yorks and Lanks at 818-882-9954. That's 818-882-9954. And don't forget to tell them Candi sent you. Yorks and Lanks Automotive, where heritage meets mastery, where luxury is maintained, and where performance is restored.
The Proxy Principle. Oh.
I want to say we were about 3 weeks in, and there was a girl in my class that looked so familiar to me. I could not for the life of me place where I knew her from. So that one day, during our break, she was sitting next to me and I said, "Hey, do I know you from somewhere?" She looked straight ahead and said no. I was like, "Are you sure? Because I swear to God that I know you. Did you ever live in Nashville?" She proceeded not to look at me and again said, "No, you don't know me." I waited a minute and then it dawned on me that I indeed did not know her, but had seen her on something. And because I've seen her and I've heard her talk, it made me think that I had met her previously. So relentlessly, I said, "Wait a minute, I've seen you in something." She stubbornly said no, and she would not look at me. I was like, "That's it, isn't it? I've seen you in something." And I begged her to tell me what it was. She started to grin because I would not leave her alone. Finally, I go, "Okay, if I figure it out, will you tell me?" She just laughs, still facing forward. I threw out, Was it that tampon commercial?" She laughed and said, "That sounds about like my life, but no, it was not a tampon commercial." I was baffled. She finally looks at me and she says, "If I tell you, will you leave me alone?" And I said, "Yes, I promise." She continues with, "And you can't tell anybody." I said, "Okay, I promise." I'm not going to tell you her name because even though it's been 20-something years since we've had this conversation, I'm still not sure she likes to talk about it. But she proceeded to tell me that she was one of the finalists on the first season of the reality show, Joe Millionaire. My eyes widened, and with excitement, I gushed, "Oh my God, yes. You were my favorite person on that show because you were the only one that seemed honest about not liking this dude, which is probably why he liked you." At least that was the vibe I was getting. You were the best part of the show. It made for good TV. And you wouldn't know it from that conversation, but we became best friends. One year, I want to say it was probably 10 years or so ago, I did not have a New Year's Eve gig, which was rare. So I called my bestie and I said, "Girl, get yourself together because we're going out. We got to get in the game." And she was like, "I don't know what that means, and you're scaring me." I said, "We want some things to change in our lives, so we need to change it up. We never go out, and we're never going to meet people by sitting on our couches." So we got gussied up and drove into Beverly Hills. Now, it's New Year's Eve, and we don't have a reservation anywhere. We just thought we'd wing it. Our first stop was Mastro's Steakhouse on Cannon Drive. We walk in, and the place is packed. There was one two-top available, but it was right next to the front door. We tried it, but there were so many people coming in and out, and it was pretty cold for a California evening. My friend was in a skirt, and we didn't want to be miserable all night. So we decided to go across the street to the Palm, which was a Hollywood staple up until, I think, 2023. There weren't any tables available, but the bar was wide open. So we bellied up, ordered a couple of cocktails and dinner. While waiting on our meal, an older gent walks in and orders a drink from our bartender. They seem to know each other, so this guy must have been a regular. I recognized him immediately, and I slapped my girlfriend on the leg under the bar, trying to motion without making a scene as to who he was. She was like, "I don't know who that is." So I pulled out my phone and I texted her the man's name. He was too close for me to say it out loud without him noticing. It was none other than Frank Stallone. She still didn't know who he was. Still texting because I didn't want to make a scene. I was like, he was in Tombstone, Staying Alive. He wrote some of the music for it. Sylvester Stallone's brother? She just shrugged her shoulders like, I don't know. So while we enjoyed our cocktails, still waiting on our food, we observed Frank's conversation with the bartender. He wasn't being obnoxious, but he was definitely trying to get somebody's attention by the stories he was telling. His demeanor was borderline, who can I compare it to? As if we'd been sitting with Andrew Dice Clay. So after a few minutes, I finally say to him, "Why are you making all that ruckus over there?" And his response was immediate confirmation that it was our attention that he was vying for. He immediately became our best friend. Well, after a few more cocktails and dinner, I excused myself to visit the ladies' room. I happened to be wearing a black cat suit that night, and his reaction was hilarious. It was actually rather refreshing to have a man notice me. It had been a while. He was beyond complimentary in his flirtation. I thought it was funny. When I came back from the ladies, he just slathered it on even more. Needless to say, he got my phone number, and we dated for about a year and a half. He's a really good man, but we were just in two very different stages in our lives. We're still friends, and we talk from time to time. I don't know if you can see that doll behind me, but he gave that to me on the condition that I would never sell it or give it away. And so I haven't. And my stories with him are very interesting, but that will be for another time. Moving right along, what if you knew of a celebrity and you knew that you had never met them, but somehow they knew you or thought they knew you and treated you as such? Well, I'm going to give you a little backstory on an experience I had, and to this day, I don't know how it happened. But this exact scenario did happen almost 30 years ago while I was still living in Nashville, Tennessee. And at the time, I wasn't a huge country music fan, but I did work at a country music hub for a lot of well-known musicians, producers, songwriters, etc. You've heard me mention it in previous episodes. I was a waitress at Nashville Deli, and so I had no choice but to make friends and contacts with a lot of people in the country music industry because they frequented our restaurant. How many of you remember Terry Clark? And there's a reason I'm asking, so just stay with me. If you're a true country fan, you do. She is this stunning brunette who was one of the only women in country music at the time that I recall always wearing a cowboy hat. I felt like it was her signature thing, and she rocked it well. Better Things to Do, which came out in 1995, was her debut single, which came out on her self-titled debut album, and it peaked at number 3. It's one of her most streamed and iconic early tracks. On her follow-up album, Just the Same, her single, Just the Same, was released in 1997, to which if you watched CMT back then you would have seen me. This is the reason that I knew who she was, because I had been cast in this music video. We didn't really meet. I was just in a few scenes with her, and I took notes from the director. She seemed nice enough. You might also recognize her from her primary long-running hosting role in radio on the syndicated classic country program Country Gold with Terry Clark. I want to say she hosted that show from about 2016 until maybe late 2024. Carrying the story right along, there was another chick singer climbing the ranks in country music around that time. She was a real pretty blonde, and her name was Anita Cochran, best known for her late 1997, early 1998 single, What If I Said, which was a duet with Steve Wariner. It reached the #1 position on the Billboard Hot Country Songs charts. My mother listened to her, and I became a big fan, mainly because she produced her first album, co-wrote all but one of the songs, and played several instruments on it herself. That's impressive. Well, even though I had never actually been introduced to either of these talented women, Nashville was a small town when I lived there. This was when there were only 3 bars downtown. Now, downtown is crazier than Vegas, if that gives you any perspective. Still with me? I'm building the story. Like I had mentioned, I made a lot of friends and contacts by working at Nashville Delicatessen. One of those friends happened to be a celebrity news journalist known for his Brad About You column for the Tennessean newspaper, Brad Schmidt. He was going to an award show. I don't remember which award show it was, but he asked me to go with him. Of course, I was totally in. We got all dressed up, but we weren't really going to the event. He had press passes, so we were basically hanging out backstage, and he would talk to the celebrities as they were coming and going. There were 2 people that stood out to me. Naomi Judd was one of them. She was the hostess with the mostest. She treated me like I was the only person in the room. She was so sweet. I don't know that I've ever met anyone as kind as she was, but you could tell that she treated everyone that way. She was in the moment, and it was not about her. That is a special quality to have. The other person that I was introduced to was Anita Cochran. I was kind of excited to meet her considering that I was a fan. Well, as she walked up to Brad, she looked at me like I was the devil and said, "What did you bring her here for?" My demeanor suddenly changed. I was in shock. Why would she say that? I had never met her. I had never run into her before. Did she think she knew me? I know the expression on my face was, "What is happening?" And then she got called away for something, so that conversation was short and not so sweet. I asked Brad, are you dating her or something? He said no, and he had no reason to lie to me. Brad and I were not dating. We were friends, so I probably would have known if he had been involved with her. But her behavior kind of threw me out of the enjoyment of the evening. It's a good thing I wasn't a fan. Oh, wait, I was. But not after that. And that's not the end of this story. So, you may remember from one of my previous episodes, I was also hanging out with a country artist by the name of Jason Sellers. I'm Your Man was one of his hits. Well, he invited me to go to a sporting event, and his record label had a suite. I don't remember what the event was, but what I do remember is that when we arrived, I recognized a few other artists like Mindy McCready, and very recognizable at this point were Terry Clark and Anita Cochran. I didn't say anything to Jason and didn't have to. Anita came for me straight away. It was so weird. Did someone tell her something about me? She hated me. I did not know this woman. Jason was like, let's just hang back here and we'll keep our distance. I was fine with that. I didn't know what I had done, so there was no guilt on my end. Needless to say, we didn't stay very long because I don't know if she'd had a few too many drinks or what, but she was ready to fight me. I might be mouthy, but I'm not really that person that goes looking to throw down. So Jason got me out of there real quick. I couldn't fathom how I could keep attracting a person like this into my life. What was keeping this person in my frequency? Now, I don't remember how long it was after that this happened, but we were entering into fanfare season, which I think they now call it CMA Fest. It's a 4-day music festival centered on country music. Well, Nashville Deli was always busy, but during any kind of country music festival, award shows, etc., We would have a line around the block, and everybody and their mother would come there for lunch. It was the place to be. On one of these festival days, they asked me to host rather than wait on my regulars and take to-go orders for the deli. There had been a couple who had been waiting in line for 45 minutes, and their table finally became available. I would always go check to make sure the table was clean and set before seating anybody. I did just that, and their table was ready. I went to get the couple, grabbed a few menus, and escorted them to their table. Lo and behold, guess who snuck in the back door and seated themselves at that very table? Anita Cochran and Terry Clark. I didn't want to make a scene as I did not know how this person who did not know me but seemed to hate me so much would react. So I turned to the couple and asked, "Would you mind following me? There seems to be a mix-up." They politely did, as I told them that I would get them seated ASAP, but that I had to take care of something first. So they waited patiently near the host station. I went back to the table and asked Miss Clark and Miss Cochran if they wouldn't mind coming to the front, as the people that I had just tried to seat at their table had been waiting for that table for 45 minutes. Not extremely happy about it, they did get up and follow me. And as we reached the host station, I asked, "And what are your names?" I think we all know that I knew what their names were. They told me, and I wrote it down on the wait list. They didn't really have to wait that long because the line was dwindling at that point. Now, some people might think I was being mean, but I wasn't being mean. They were the ones that were mean. And actually, it wasn't both of them so much. It was just that Terry happened to be with Blondie in a couple of situations, and she really didn't stop her friend from being an asshole. My actions, on the other hand, were not personal. It was business, because I would have done that to and for anybody. Did I find joy in it? Yeah, I probably did. Things always have a way of working themselves out. And as petty as it was, I guess it's not really who you know, but who knows you. I don't know, maybe it's both. They didn't know me, but one of them at least did, however, manifest who she thought I was, didn't she? I think we all have that capability. And as they say, it's hard to be humble when you're great. In this instance, for me, that meant if you can't join them, then beat them. And I can't find a better way to end this story than by using a phrase my mister likes to use on the regs. Broads. So on that note, whether you like this broad or not, don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments on whatever platform you're listening from so that I know who you are. I'd truly love to hear what you think. You can also join me every time right here by hitting that follow button so you don't miss the next episode. And thank you, Proxies, for being loyal listeners. Don't forget to share the Proxy principle with your friends, because when two or more are gathered, well, you know how it goes. I'm Candi Rands, and I'll catch you next time.